So welcome to Rusty Designs, guys. You've seen the thumbnail. We're doing a G60 GTI today, or a GTI G60 today, Golf Mark II. It's coming for a few upgrades. But before we get into that car, a word from our sponsor, which is rustydesigns.com. And there's always new stuff coming and going on the website. Now, just a quick note, everything that's listed on the website, we have on the website. I mean, I have it in stock. I have a few in stock. Sometimes I don't change the pictures. The items are the same. If you buy this one or if you buy this one, they're the same. Okay, one maybe is a little bit cleaner than the other, but they're the same. The condition's the same. So I don't really change the photos. So don't worry if you see items go and then come back again, or or you see an item that you want and it's not there. It doesn't mean it's not going to come back. It does actually come back maybe about 3 or 4 days. I do find another replacement of said item. So yeah, if it's there, I do have it. Now, I've been selling quite a lot of these Mark III front engine gearbox brackets. And I'm wondering why. I mean, yeah, okay, there's a lot of people doing Mark IIIs, but there's a lot of Mark IIIs that already have this bracket, like on the TDIs and stuff like that. So, but they've been selling. I'm just wondering if people are actually, I do actually say on the listing that if you're doing a Mark II Golf, these are not the brackets for you. You can use them. The angle is totally wrong. And you can see by this very rare G60 style one, this is the one you actually want. And these actually come with the bolts. Yes, they are more expensive because they are rarer. They're from the G60, as well as the Passat B3, which again is super rare nowadays. These are the ones you want. The angle will be right. You can use these, but as you can see, the angle is totally wrong. To use the Mark III bracket, ideally you need to use the Passat B4 crossbeam, which uses a Mark III style engine mount. Then you get the angle right, and that is literally the ultimate setup. If you want the OEM with not a lot of resonance going into the car, that's the setup you actually want, if you can find everything. But ultimately, if you're doing a Mark II Golf with an 02A or an 02J gearbox, like a 20 valve or a 16 valve or whatever it may be, you need these style G60 ones, not the Mark III ones, just to clear that up. And as you can see, I've only got 2 of these, but I've actually got maybe 10 of those in stock, and quite a few of these as well. Also going up on the website today, I don't know how much this is gonna be, but this is from a TDI with power steering. Basically, if you've got a KR 16 valve, I think the part number might be the same for the diesel as well as for the 16 valve, because the belt thickness is the same, so the ET, the offset is the same. So this will be going up on these. Are quite hard to come by actually, these twin pulley crank pulleys for the early cars. That's only going to fit on a KR, a PL and a 9A that's running kind of those old style V-belts. Now in this little box here, a few videos back you may have seen I did a Mark I Jetta, and it had some crazy rear brake bias set up where someone had locked it up and put it in the engine bay, the bias valve, and it just didn't really work at all, and it was actually quite dangerous. The car had no pedal travel, wasn't great. I ordered some brake resistors for the rear from Epitech. I ordered those, and they weren't cheap from Epitech. And I remember that these came on some cars, these resistors. And so I looked around the scrapyards and I found a few. I Googled the number and they don't seem to be available anymore. You can get them, sometimes they come up secondhand, and also the only place that did seem to list them was Autodoc, and they were a crazy amount of money just for one. I've actually got 3 sets here. Basically, if you've got a Mark I Golf, Mark I Jetta, and you've done like a rear disc conversion, these are perfect. Also, if you're doing a Mark II Golf with a rear disc conversion, these are good as well. Mark III Golf, if you're doing like a 1.6 or 1.4 or something like that, and you've done, even some TDIs actually, the the 90s and stuff come with drums on the rear, don't come with discs. You're going to need these little resistors to help you locking up. I mean, you can put the brake bias valve on the back, but it means setting up with a bracket. You have to buy the item, cut brake pipes, make new brake pipes, get a spring in it, and then also set it up. A lot of people don't actually touch them. When you lower the car, you're supposed to actually recalibrate the actual, because the spring's actually adjustable on it. So a lot of people don't actually even do that. This is basically just plug and play. You just remove the brake pipe from the brake master cylinder, screw this in, and then put the original pipe back into there. And it just literally just sits like that on the brake master cylinder for the rear ones. Just simple plug and play. So yep, I've actually got 3 sets of those. Also, in last week's video, you saw these brake cooling ducts. These fit the original Golf Mark II inner wheel arches. There's like a little square cut out for them. If there isn't, I guess you can cut out, but if memory serves me right, I think most of the inner wheel arches actually have the cutout for this with the 2 little holes. So basically this kind of just bolts into there. It's a 60mm pipe, and the angle's perfect for the big bumper cars with the fog lights. So if you don't have fog lights, I think there's a few websites out there that sell like a brake duct kind of thing that replaces where the fog light would have gone. Or if you want to cut out the fog lights and actually make your own kind of thing, you can. If you want to keep the fog lights, but you still want the brake cooling, I guess you can just kind of put this off to the side, just beside the fog light in that little lower grille there. And it can just feed air, picks up air from the front of the car and just blows it straight onto that kind of brake caliper, brake disc area at the front. That's enough for today. As you can see, I'm sweating. It is baking hot here today. And let's get into this G60. So welcome back to Resto Designs, guys, and as you've seen in the intro, we've got the very mystical unicorn of a G60 Mark II GTI. There is a few versions of this. I think there was just a G60, there was a G60 GTI, and there was a G60 Synchro. I think the difference between the GTI and the normal G60 was the intercooler. I may be wrong. I think the normal G60 had like a top mount intercooler, and the GTI G60 had like a front mount intercooler, similar to the Rally, but just slightly smaller, if I remember correctly. I'm not too really clued up. Maybe in the comments you can kind of correct me or put the right information in there. I haven't really looked into it. I'm just kind of going off memory what the differences was, and obviously the Synchro is a Synchro. Now, this one is a Tornado Red, which is really quite nice to have a Tornado Red GTI. Red nowadays seems to be a color that's quite rare, and this one is in, looks like it's been repainted, but it's in really, really good condition. It's got some seriously low mileage. I think it's on about 80,000 miles, or less than that actually. I think, hold on, no, it's 120, it's on 120 something K, which I think is about 70,000 miles. So it's, yeah, it's not that much mileage. It's really good condition. It's got a set of Recaros in it. Looks like they're off an Integra Type R, running Roland, running a nice set of rims with some Toyo R888s. Now, what's it in for? It is in for a few little goodies. It's in for some KW V3s, because at the moment it's running Bilstein B12s, which is the shocks and springs. For some reason it's sitting really nose heavy. I do know the B12s actually have the adjustable kind of on the rear shocks. Maybe it's on the highest one, and that's why it's sitting so nose heavy, or it was sitting so nose heavy. Also, in its low mileage, someone somewhere along the line has changed the gearbox. It's got a diesel gearbox, which has got a 3-1 final drive. Diesel gearboxes tend to have very short first and seconds. Again, I gotta get them off the line. And it's got massive, well, not a massive gap, but it's got a nice hole in the middle between second and third. Yes, the G60 does have the torque to kind of not notice that kind of drop in RPM. But yeah, fifth gear is silly long, good for economy. But this car, where he lives, loads of twisties. You know, you can tell he's actually got, you know, by the R888s, he likes to use this car in the twisties, and yep, it's not really the gearbox for him. Second gear is kind of too short for a tight bend, third gear is too tall. So we've gone for a Mark IV gearbox. I think it's basically what comes in the ABF, which is a 3/6 final drive, and the spacing is, you know, we've done a kind of, I did a few maps and a few gear ratios of boxes that he could pick, and he liked kind of the standard 20 valve Mark IV, which is the same as basically the ABF with a 3/6 final drive. And yep, so he's gone for a Mark IV box, and he's actually gone for a Quaif in it as well. And we're going to also be doing a O2J style selector in it with a plug and play tower as well from Polo. So there's going to be loads of info in that as well. And then also I'm going to be tidying up the engine bay. The wiring kind of needs, over time, has had a few things added. So we're going to simplify and make some 3D bracketing and tidy up the loom in the engine bay. So we've got a lot to get on with, but first thing, let me show you what's behind the camera there on the bench. Coilovers KW V3s, guys. Yeah, baby. Yep, for the G60. Ooh, the toolkit. You gotta love how KW actually package this stuff up. All the paperwork, technical documents. And here's the main event, guys. Look at these. All plated, looking very, very nice. So these front ones, got the adjuster here at the bottom, which is for bump. And then the rebound is adjusted here at the top with a little key. And on the rears, it's pretty much the same probably. Yeah, the adjuster's there at the top. And at the bottom, very trick, you can get to it through there like that. That's really quite nice. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to be doing with the gearbox. And it's gone for a wave track. I've done a few of these in a few cars and they work very, very well. And this is the gearbox, which has got the O2J selector. Gearbox has been all rebuilt with the Quaif put in, not done by me. And here is the main bit here, because it doesn't want to cut the car up because it is a G60. And what I've sourced for him, and with his help actually, he's actually pointed me towards this, the owner did, which is, this is a selector from a Polo 1.4 TDI 2001, 2002, which is, I think is coded 9N2, I think it is. Yep, and it's basically, it's a plug and play. This will fit straight, hopefully, into the location where the O2A selector would have gone. This replaces it. Just need to get a set of cables now to match up to go into here. Gonna get some Polo cables or something. We'll sort something out. But yeah, it's a plug and play selector. So, but before we get into this is probably the last bit of the video. The first thing we're gonna be doing is fitting the suspension, and we're gonna be removing the G60 Supercharger because that's gonna get serviced. Now, off camera, I've already removed something. That's right, guys, I removed the supercharger. And a part of this, why the reason for the car's here is to do kind of a service on that as well. I'm not dealing with that. That's a guy called Tiago, but he comes highly recommended. Yep, so he's got that. So let's get the wheels off, get the suspension off, and fit the new KWs. Two different sizes, 18s and 19s. So what I'm going to do now is top mounts on, fresh top mount, fresh bearing. Just going to measure so I know where they're baseline and set them both to the same. Always put them at the front. This one actually I think has, no, it's only got one locking thing, so yeah, always towards the front. So that is to this line here. is 90 mil, 9 centimeters. All right, so let's get this on the car. Right, so this ABS wire holder was on this side, and there's signs of it rubbing here, and it was rubbing against this braided brake line. So I kind of moved it back to the right side. Also, I've changed the bolt because it's one was a different size. One was an 18, one was a 19, so they're all the same size now. And one of the things with some of these aftermarket shocks, the thread actually here, the pitch is different from the OEM. As you can see here, this is a wider pitch, and this is a very much finer pitch, same as the OEM. So luckily in stock, I've had some OEM ones, so I can fit them on. And I guess mainly because I do deal with mainly Mark IIs and Mark IIIs, I do have loads of these kind of bits laying around. It always comes in handy when you're doing a project to actually have loads of spares. All right, let me get on with this, get this rear suspension on so we can set up the stance. So to make life easier, the shocks are also facing the same way, backwards with the sticker, because obviously the adjuster's at the bottom, so you need to know the reference point. There's no point having it the other way around, and then you're kind of chasing your tail. One's clocking one way, one's clocking the other way. So right, it's on the floor, and from what I can see, yeah, from 90 mil that we did on the front and the 80 we did on the back, probably need to go, I don't know, kind of, I mean, that stance looks perfect there. I mean, yeah, maybe actually just dropping the back down quite a bit actually, probably about 20 mil. Yeah, I'd say easily 20 mil on the rear, and then that will actually take some weight off the front, surprisingly, so it'd sit perfectly. So it's about a finger there. So like I said, we're gonna drop this 20 mil from the original 80 that was there to that line there, and that's simply because the gap was actually more than 20, probably about 30, 35. But what I tend to find is, because of the weight transfer now of lowering it that 20 mil, the front actually comes up a little bit. So you kind of, that's probably where it was one finger before. It's probably gonna be 1.5 kind of gap. And then here is gonna be hopefully around the same. So there you have it. 20 mil drop has dropped it more than 20 mil. The gap now is a finger and a bit. And it's the same at the front, where the front was just one finger. Now it's a finger and a bit as well. So yeah, you've got to always remember weight transfer. Doesn't seem like it's a lot. You know, if you've got scales, you really see how much the weight changes. So, you know, it kind of sitting like this, actually more weight goes on the front, makes the front sit even lower. So just by maybe doing, you know, if I'd lowered at 30 or 35, it'd be like sitting on its arse, reverse rate now. Whereas, because you've taken weight off the front, as well as taking weight off the front, you kind of transfer it to the rear, so it compresses the rear even more. So the 20 mil, spot on. So another thing the customer wants done, sorted, is this engine bay tied up. Yeah, and kind of things cable tied on. Maybe I'll make a 3D bracket for this as well. So there's a bit vibrating around on here, and tidy this up a little bit. I think that can be done. This Jubilee clip looks like it's right on the end here actually. It looks like it has it, maybe it's the wrong size. I don't know if I can actually push it on more. Not too happy with that, but let me see what I can do with that. But yeah, so guess start removing boost pipes, start removing all this stuff out the way, fan cowling and stuff, so we can get to the gearbox. So I removed the central console, which there was really no need to, but just to make sure there was literally just one little bolt that kind of goes, that holds this little bracket on the G60s. So I could have just removed that, but I thought I'd remove it all just in case. It all seems good. So now let's go underneath, remove the exhaust. Next thing to do is going to be removing this heat shield and take off these little clips, which can be a real pain to remove. Also, I notice different to most Mark IIs, I've got two 13s here, which I'll take it or go up to that selector box. Also, this heat shield cover, as well as being different there, I've sort of got a totally different shape, as well as the cables actually come through in the middle of it, which is quite cool. So, yep, let's get this heat shield off. And this is what it looks like underneath. Pretty similar to a Corrado, I guess, or a Passat B3, B4. Okay, so those two ones that I took off were actually holding the front of the box. Just need to take those now. And that's the selector box down. Okay, so the selector's off, pretty easy. Now, I've got the O2J style selector side by side. This one from the Polo 6N2. I mean, it's got some part numbers on here, but I'm not sure really if that is going to be the right part number for the whole unit. I am going to try and source some of these from the scrapyards here and put them on my website, which basically, if this works, will be basically a plug and play straight into your G60s, Golf Mark 3s, Corrados, everything that uses this original style shifter, the O2A style. You can upgrade without cutting and welding. It should be just a plug and play setup, which is going to be quite nice. Let's see if this fits then. Basically, the moment of truth. Yep, look at that. Plug and play. Let's see what it looks like from the top. Yep, that looks quite good. I wonder if this is going to hit the cover actually, if it's going to hit this trim bit, you know, the coin holder on the Mark II. Let's see. Let's get the console in place and see what it does. So the console fits perfectly, just had to trim ever so slightly these little bits here, which also come with, on the original car, these little plastic things. You can probably lock that into place. All I needed to do, like you can see, took about a few mil off each side. But this screw is going to hold it down perfectly. Now this little bracket that this G60 had here, that was holding these, pushing down on these two spots here, I need to trim this rib here slightly, ever so slightly, to kind of get that to fit into there like that. But that's an easy thing to do. So the main thing, like I said, this looks like it's quite high here. As you can kind of see, it's almost level with the trim bit. So let's get the coin holder and gator on. Dun, dun, dun. Oh wow, perfect. Doesn't actually touch it at all. Yeah, it's on there. Oh, wow, that's look at that. That really is plug and play for all you G60 guys out there. I'm sure then if it fits in this with the same gator on it, all the rest of it, it'll work in a Mark III and it'll work in your Corrados, and it's just basically easier than cutting. And also when you use the Mark IV one, you never get kind of a proper seal around here. So you kind of get exhaust noise and heat coming through and stuff like that, and that's so much nicer. Basically plug and play fit if you can find these. Like I said, I'm going to try and source some more of these, put them on my website. But yeah, okay, let's remove this test fit now. Let's take it down, get the cables fitted, give it a clean, and it'll be ready to go in once and for all. Wow, I'm really happy with that, really happy with that. So I had to get myself, because that box came with no cables, or it came with the cables cut on the car. I took it off in the scrapyard. I had to go and now buy another box. This is a standard Mark IV one, or actually it's a later Polo one, so it's got the slightly shorter cables. So I've got the slightly shorter cables, it's got the wrong ends, just need to change the ends on these, but that's easily done. So now let's clean up the box, get this all fitted, and kind of get this gearbox all bolted up. So progressing nicely, finished underneath here, and I've actually torqued up or marked all the bolts and nuts that I've actually touched, as well as some of the others that I haven't on the subframe, just to make sure everything is tight. All the drive shafts all torqued up and on there. And that's it. Now we can move on to the engine bay and start putting that together, as well as tidying it up as I go along as well with the wiring. Right, so got the gearbox on, all the drive shafts are done, the gear selector's all done, all that kind of stuff is done. Now, there's a few things that we need to do up here, which is we need to put the starter motor on, the reverse light switch and stuff. Now, these are going to be different because we've gone from an O2A to an O2J style, so I'm going to have to change the plug on this, as well as he wants me to tidy up some of the loom. And as you can see here, this has got an old style battery positive with, and look how long it is as well. I mean, it's quite a long little bit of wire actually It just goes to there, so it doesn't need to be that long, as well as got all these connectors there. So what I've got is, get rid of this, I've got a Mark III one, which is one, shorter, and two, we've got location for 4 wires, which is what we've actually got here. It's 4 wires on there as well. So that's going to be the first modification on the wiring, tidying that up, is putting this new battery power strap on. So I've got the G60 back from the repairers. It's all got fresh components inside and bearings and stuff. Okay, so let me just pull off the pulley so then we can actually get this back into the car. So got the G60 in. It really is quite an easy thing. It's such a nice compact package, fits in there. It's so easy to fit. Now I see this has got now this has the rally outlet. It doesn't have the silencer because it's got like the rally intercooler on it, and it's got this big hose pipe. So I took this off and I noticed it's cut kind of jagged, and as you can see, look where the clamp actually goes on, wasn't actually gripping it all the way around on this section here. So I'm going to trim the rest of the pipe so it's a bit straighter, then hopefully the clamp can actually clear top and bottom. So I got that boost pipe on. It's a nice tight fit, but it's on comfortably. Now, before I put the alternator on, I thought let me just get to number 1 and actually do the spark plugs. And they don't look too smart here. And I went for number 4. It's like literally falling apart, and it literally is just falling apart. The whole lead. Look at the corrosion on that. Don't know if you guys can focus on that. And the actual bit that was inside there has actually fallen out. So these are the plugs, took them out. This is the bit I was talking about, actually came off. You can see it's all badly corroded and stuck around on there. And the lead, obviously, that resistance wasn't making a lot of great contact. I mean, even though all the plugs are like this, actually running very rich, this car. I think you need to get it double checked. But anyway, moving on. It's all bolted up, about to put the airbox on now. Mix all so that the intake trace is as clean as it can be. Don't want to grab any dirt in there, any dust and stuff. It's not a good look. And that's it, and then we're almost ready to actually then start tidying up. Also try and sort that out. This was loose, it's kind of made up. Yep, I need to find a better location for this as well, because this isn't great as it is. So I've almost done. Now putting the fan cowling on. I noticed, look how close it is there to the starter motor. So I'm going to have to modify that bit there, because literally it's almost touching. So the charger's all in. Tidied up some of the wires around here. Looks a lot better with that terminal on there. The rest of the wiring, I'm going to leave this, because I think after here it's actually going to get a standalone fitted in, so it's going to have a new engine loom in it. At that point then we'll see what we're going to do with these wires. Maybe later on into the future we'll kind of, I think he wants to get the engine bay done, so he'll probably take the engine out. He wants to roll up some of these holes from the strut braces that was on there and stuff. In that case I'll come along, take the loom off and modify the loom and kind of tidy this all up, and he might even actually get rid of the ABS system as well. I would actually recommend him get rid of that, probably doesn't even work anymore. Anyway, now that this is done, there's one last thing to do, which is on the bench, and that is what is inside this box here, which is he's got a brand new fuel pump to go in. Now these G60s, they run Mark III style, or it is actually a Mark III kind of pump in it. Obviously before the Mark III came out, or maybe the Mark III actually runs a G60 style pump. So I got the pump out, and it's definitely someone's somewhere along its line before his ownership has actually changed the pump, or at least they've changed these hoses. They've put some fuel hoses on here. Made in France. Or maybe the G60 comes like this with these hoses. I'm not, because these kind of look these look new, and so they look new there. Whereas that you can see is corroded, so I'm sure they would have been the same, or maybe these pipes have been replaced. Something's been done. This does look quite old as well, you can see by the how it's discoloured. But yeah, who cares? It's out. got a brand new complete unit. So pumps all in, prime up the pump with a few turns of the key, and hopefully should start without the accelerator. There we go. And we've got the shifter in now as well. This is for the gator on it. He doesn't actually have a gear knob for this, so he's gonna have to source one. But yeah, look at that, really quite nice. Press the clutch down. Alright guys, so put the steering gator on with this nice O2J conversion with that Polo selector in there. Works really well. And this is the end of another video, guys. So thanks for watching. Check out the website. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, click on that notification bell and be safe, guys.